Hello and welcome to this episode of the Gene Keys Exploration. My name is Shelly Szigli and I am a Gene Keys guide. I'm excited to be sharing with you an exploration of each of the gene keys, starting from the first gene key, moving our way all the way through to the 64th gene key. Disclaimer, these episodes are really just about sitting with the energy of the gene keys and literally, at times, reading from Richard Rudd's book. The gene keys are so vast and complex, and as a guide, I don't remember much of the information, so we're going to be exploring these gene keys together. You can find my work at www.genekeyrecordkeeper.com. And other than that, I just hope you enjoy the show and enjoy this exploration. Please feel free to share it, leave us a review, and tell us how this exploration was for you. Hello everyone, Shelly here. Welcome to this exploration of Gene Key 11. Here's some forewarning. I have a feeling that we're going to go really deep here. Today has been incredibly strange, and even as I go to look at this gene key or even listen to Richard Rudd's breakdown of this gene key, there's something that is interrupting this process. So I feel like there's a real genuine need, possibly, or just calling to explore this gene key without really going into researching it. So not that I usually research these gene keys, but sometimes I like to listen to Richard's audio compilation on the gene key to just get a feeling into the particular gene key that we're digging into and looking into. But today, for some reason, it doesn't seem like that is going to be part of this process. So we are going into gene key 11 completely fresh, completely with open eyes. So I am recording this in May of 2024. So if you're listening to this at this time, we are in an interesting time of humanity. And if you are listening to this years later or at a different time, I'm sure we're also in an interesting state of humanity. So let's dig into this 11th gene key. I do have the book open and I'm ready to dig into it. So the 11th gene key is titled in Richard's book, The Gene Keys Embracing Your Higher Purpose, as The Light of Eden. So the shadow is obscurity, the gift is idealism, and the Siddhi is light. Interesting. Okay, so we are going to dig into this, and I'm going to go right to the second paragraph here in his book. And no, I'm not going to go there. Actually, I'm going to go into the second page on this gene key. The 11th shadow of obscurity. So we're going to start with the shadow here. And I'm reading right from the book. These are not my words. You'll know when it's me talking and when it's me reading. Right now it's me reading. So the 11th shadow of obscurity essentially places you inside of virtual reality, a construct created through a combination of programming via this 11th shadow and its programming partner, the 12th shadow of vanity. This reality is a total obscuration in which you can only view life through a certain, very limited set of parameters. Here's how it works. Representing the feminine pole of the brain, the 11th shadow creates a field of fear within human beings. The images that flood your mind from the right side of the brain can neither be controlled, nor do they appear to make sense. In most cases, they are relegated to a backwater of your brain where they emerge as secret fantasies, repressed dreams, emotional issues, and hidden agendas. The male-oriented left side of the brain, encapsulated in the 17th shadow, therefore becomes far more dominant, since it uses logic as a means of controlling your reality. Whereas the right brain seems chaotic, illogical, and idealistic, the left brain is the voice of control and reason. The next part of this story involves the programming from the other side of our genome through the 12th shadow. The 12th shadow programs through sound rather than light. It translates the abstract-oriented reality of the 11th shadow into an inner language, a neuro-linguistic fabricated reality that you can project out into the world. In the center of this virtual world sits the separate self, a controlled illusion held together by a fascist inner regime operating through an inner media that continuously manipulates you through the medium of light and sound. In other words, the 11th and 12th shadows only allow you to see and hear what they want you to see and hear. If this sounds familiar to you, it is because our outer world has a tendency to mirror the inner reality. Vanity is the name given to the false protagonist sitting in the middle of your screen, and it forms the basis of this planet's false reality. Many other systems and traditions have named this inner construct the ego. Okay, I'm going to take a break here, but whoa, right? You listening to this today, we all know of the ego. We all know what the ego is, how it works generally. But what Richard just did here is he really broke it down into how it actually works and how both the 11th and 12th gene key work together to create this construct, which he literally refers to as a virtual reality. Now, I've been saying that for years, that life is like a video game. What we decide, how we think, how we move creates how the game plays out. Now, the way that he goes into it here is much deeper and actually gives you the information to understand how this virtual reality is created. So, when we feel into these words, and I'm beginning to understand why I wasn't to listen to the audio on this or dig into this prior to recording, because it very much is taking me deep. So even as I'm speaking these words, it's almost like it's taking me out of physical reality and placing me in this liminal space where my mind isn't thinking, where I'm speaking and I'm transmitting something to you that is not formed from my brain, but rather through this open space. So when you look at your current world right now, and I look at my current world, and why I bring it to you personally is because the outer reality in the collective, whatever is happening on a worldwide scale, is really important for us. However, without the full understanding of how our program and how our virtual reality is set up, without us first really having a hold on that, an understanding of that, and being an active participant in creating the reality that is best for ourselves and best for our community and best for the world as a whole, if we don't have this base point understood and integrated, what we attempt to do on a collective level doesn't really do much, right? Now, my conscious brain has a problem with that. However, the heart knows that it's the truth. And oftentimes we get distracted from doing the work at the individual level because it's hard. It's hard looking at the programming that we are run by and controlled by. It's hard letting go of victimhood and realizing I'm the only one who can change this, and I'm the only one who's responsible for this current place in my reality, and I'm the only one who can change it. So that self-responsibility piece is really difficult, and I've seen a lot of people stop here, because when we get to that point of, well, let's call it radical self-responsibility, we understand that there's a lot that has to change for us. And not necessarily that we have to revamp our whole life, but we have to revamp how we think, how we feel, how we speak, how we move, how we create, all of those things. So I feel like it's interesting to ponder this on a deeper level. And I hope as you're listening to this, you're pondering your own virtual reality and the way that you emanate your life and how that's mirroring back to you now. What should be encouraging in this process is that whatever is mirroring back to you now, if it's not what you want to see, if it's not what's your highest and best, there's a solution. And there's a solution that's available to you at all times to shift that. So we're going to dig in deeper to this, and we're going to look at the repressive nature of this shadow. The repressive nature is called fantasizing. When the archetypal imagery of the right brain is repressed, it turns inward and creates a world of fantasy. There is nothing wrong with fantasy, so long as it finds a healthy and creative outlet. But in most cases, it does not find such an outlet. The foundation of repression is fear, and when this fear is not embraced, it creates an enormous drain on our whole body and being. Unlived lives gradually drain the physical energy from the body, leading to all manner of physical health problems. Even worse than this, inner fantasies that do not find a creative outlet block us from following our true destiny. Our destiny is always hidden away behind these fantasies. The longer we hold them within, the more twisted they become, until what began as a simple archetype becomes perverted into much darker forms. Until we can own responsibility for such a form, we cannot release the creative power that lies within us. Now, this is interesting. And I feel like if you're here listening to this, you're ready to go wherever I'm ready to go, wherever we're going to take this, okay? But the repressed energy and the repressed, whatever we suppress, is always looking for an outlet. And I saw in my memories today on Facebook a short video clip of me speaking and saying these words: whatever we suppress the deepest is a powerful expression in our reality. It's powerfully creating in our reality. So in my own work, when I'm doing what we could call healing work or reprogramming or coaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. One of the biggest things I'm looking for when I'm working with a client is what they're most shameful of. Now, most of humanity still at this point can't handle the truth of what has expressed through the human that they're connecting with. Why can't they handle the truth of the darkness that has expressed itself through another human? Because they can't handle the truth that has expressed through them that is connected to the darkness and the shame. So we still very much live in a collective world where even professionals, they're equipped to deal with, quote unquote, handle different aspects of the human shadow coming forth, right? And I'm talking the dark stuff like sexual abuse. I'm talking the dark things that happen that nobody wants to talk about, right? They're equipped to handle it, but they're not very good at transmuting it and holding space for a different reality. Now, unless we get really honest and even are witnessed in that expression. So this is why I believe it's really important that whatever the darkest of dark is that we have inside of us that has expressed through us, that without that being shared, it's stuffed inside for our own ego to judge, to shame. And we do, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And even if we have something really dark and yucky in there and we feel like, we have it stuffed to the back and it never comes up and our world is so different. Oh, no. That subconscious is run by it. Whatever we try to stuff behind haunts us. And if you're listening to this, you know this. Whatever you have inside of you that is the darkest, the dirtiest, the grossest, the baddest, whatever that is, right? And there's different levels of what that is. But my point is why I share like the worst of the worst is because the worst of the worst is just as shameful as something that expresses itself that maybe isn't to that degree, but is of the same nature, of the same character, right? Manipulative, dark, destructive, all of those things. Every single human being on this planet has participated in those things some way, in somehow. And if you're listening to this, you're ready to go there. If you're someone who's listening to this and is like, oh no, that's not me, I'm not sure why you're here and you're stuck in a paradigm where humanity can't move forward. Because as long as we have that, we're going to live in a world that is created around secrecy, which it completely is. Covering one's tracks, trying to keep getting away with something, right? If we don't have a safe space for things to be expressed, to be brought to the open, to be transmuted, it's going to create more suppression. It's going to create more denial. And these sick fantasies or distorted fantasies keep occurring. So that's my thoughts on that. And it's really been a part of my voice and my mission. When I have someone work with me for a session, people will wonder, like, why is one of my sessions more powerful than, years of therapy or this and that, right? Which they are. It's because I can hold whatever you got. When I started this work in 2017, I left my job as a family preservation worker, which worked in the social services system, child welfare and protection. I left that job and I opened my own clinic. It became very apparent that there's no way I'm going to be able to do this work if I can't 100% stand behind that everybody deserves to be free and that I can hear anything and hold the space for that to be transmuted, right? So I had to work really deeply on that. And when I work and train other people in whatever ways I do, that's one of the big things is we have to, if we're saying this, if we're really working from this soul to soul approach, we have to be able to hold anything. So there's that. Okay. So the reactive nature is diluted. The reactive nature, now I'm reading from Richard's book, rooted in denial and anger, turns the inner fantasy into a projection field and tries to manifest it into the world, which is exactly what I was talking about. If the anger were embraced and the deeper fear owned, then the archetypes within us would indeed manifest in the world. The archetypes within us would indeed manifest in the world. But the reactive nature never allows this. Reactive nature uses the outer world to hide from what lies within. These are the kind of people who have a great idea in their minds, but they can never manifest it. Because of the depth of their denial, they cannot let go of their inner image they have of what they would one day become. Such people are headed for eventual disappointment and even breakdown. Delusion is the attempted externalization of a false dream that conceals a deeper and real dream. Until the true dream is uncovered, what emerges is simply a veneer with no power to manifest. Okay, so diluted, interesting. So I don't feel this one is as clear when we read it from the book, but this could be, an example of this could be how, a couple has a child, they raise that child, they're professionals, maybe they're both doctors or dentists, and they raise this child right, and this child becomes a doctor just like mom and dad, or a dentist, and they're, doing the right thing, living the best way. But whatever reality they've created as that doctor or doing the right thing, that reality isn't really based on their true desires. It's based on what the program and the reality of mom and dad and what they've put onto their child has told them it should be. So it's an interesting thing, because we look at people, like, let's even say in that example, and perhaps they don't know that they're living a false reality. Perhaps they feel great, and maybe it feels like the right reality. So it can be really tricky sometimes to find that line between, is that a false reality, or is that just another expression of a possibility? And I feel like when it comes to this level of work, and again, I'm not talking hierarchy in the sense of this is the best of the best, but when we live in a certain reality where it's not important for us to have an awareness outside of what we specialize in or what is in our immediate reality, we're not necessarily miserable human beings, but we've closed ourselves off to allowing in certain things to protect ourselves. Because if you're listening to this, you know that once you begin to go into these expansive thoughts and concepts, you realize just how little you know and how the world is actually quite different than what your personal experience has showed it. So the diluted path is only a problem if it's a problem. So not all people that have created this reality based on quote unquote doing the right thing or from family's expectations are tormented. And my personal experience is, if you're not tormented and you enjoy your life, live your life how you live your life. There's no, you must do this and you're holding back the world. No, it's none of that. The problem is most people who are living this way are not happy. They're miserable. There's things under the surface. There's secrets. There's depression, suppression. There's all sorts of, like the other one, right? Fantasies and even distortions that come out in really weird ways. So there's a lot of that exists. And that's why we are drawn to this path of learning more and coming closer to who and what we truly are, because when we're off, we really know it for the most part, right? I'm sure you can resonate with that. So we're going to move into the gift here, which is idealism. And he has here the magical realism written. Excuse me. The 11th gift is one of the great keys of our present age. The more people who can be encouraged to play with the imagery and creative power coming from the right hemisphere of the brain, the more healthy the world will become. The historical repression of the feminine power and of women in general is a direct manifestation of the imbalance within our brain chemistry coming from the 11th shadow. The imagery that lies trapped within us is the pressure of our ancestral past. In other words, these images are memories. Furthermore, these memories are not just personal memories, but collective memories that have lain repressed for millennia. Such memories exist within you as archetypes, and the moment you begin to understand what an archetype is capable of, you begin to work with the dynamic energy of the 11th gift of idealism. Idealism is given a bad rap in our modern world. It is seen as the opposite of realism, and realism is associated with the power of manifestation, whereas idealism is generally seen as the weaker. The 60th gift of realism, however, is actually founded upon a magical truth, that the only thing needed for magic to occur is some form of structure and an open mind. This is not in any way at odds with the true nature of idealism. What most people think of as idealism is really the obscurity of the 11th shadow that is unable to manifest its dreams. For idealism to manifest in our world, all it needs is a structure to manifest through. And it is a big but, first you have to discover what your true ideals and dreams really are. Whoa. Okay. So this is the point of the whole gene keys, I believe, and knowing your hologenetic profile and going through the golden path journey, because that's correct. Until we understand the complexity of ourselves, which I don't know very many things that are as accurate and pinpointed and in depth to self-understanding as the gene keys. We're walking around confused. We're making decisions out of confusion. And we don't know how to identify the intuitive spark within. Now, when I begin working with clients or mentoring with somebody who really is in a path that is quite off track, for example, they're going to ask me, how do I know what's intuition and what's not? I've been led astray so many times. And what I usually have people do is in the beginning, understand that the choices that you make aren't necessarily intuition, that you are choosing something randomly, you're starting at a starting point that might not be intuition, it might not be connected to soul, it might not be connected to anything, but you're making a decision from a different point than you've made decisions in the past. Because what we want to do is break that loop patterning, that cycle, right? And from that point of choosing something new, we begin to be in a new energy, in a new frequency. And then often there's room for space for us to feel a new pull, a new gravitational pull. I'll use the word pull again, towards something that maybe is more aligned to our path. So understanding our complexity is the key. It is a key. And if you're listening to this today, if you're drawn to the gene keys, my channel, anything to do with the work that I share, you not only are ready for this key, but you're looking. And you understand that this is not about moving in the direction that you want to move in, is no longer about getting the master's degree or the doctorate or, I don't know, any tangible certification. It is now about understanding yourself. You get that, right? And when you're connected to this true part of yourself, and this doesn't even mean you don't have to cognitively be connected, right? The beautiful thing about the Golden Path journey and the courses connected to it is it shifts your subconscious. So your conscious mind starts reacting to the subconscious reprogramming. And Richard doesn't call it that, but that is essentially what's happening. Through contemplation, through moving through a process without doing it the typical student master way, you end up entering a new space, which therefore creates you a new reality. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly move to a different paragraph. The 11th gift, as you may sense, is a world of magic and fairy tale, but make no mistake about its real power. With the right structure, this energy of idealism will manifest great things in your outer life. Through the 11th gift, all the forms of the natural world swirl within us. This is a land of the tribal totems, creatures infused with particular and potent ancestral power. In every culture, such totems abound. Even in our modern world, we use symbols and animals to represent our business and lives. Each one of these symbols carries real power behind it when it resonates with your inner ideal. In the world of the 11th gift, everything is a symbol of the endless pattern of the great archetypes moving from the world of the formless into the world of form, from the past into the future via the vital artery of the present. So, it's important to remember that we're connected to everything, and that within us and our physical body, our energetic body, is information not only from our own reality, but that has been programmed, has been shared, has been given to us. So every person of every culture, of every race, has within them a reality of earth-based living, even paganism, has within them the knowledge of the ancient ways. Now, our brain might not remember them or recall them, but our DNA does. And that potential exists within us. And that's what's so interesting, because as we begin to activate these things, and we activate them by bringing awareness to them, even as you listen to this, it's not about your brain remembering anything. And please, I hope you're not taking notes unless you're filling out your gene key record keeper. But it's about the subconscious taking in information and starting to process things that possibly on the conscious level it doesn't understand. Even a lot of what I read from this book, my conscious mind is like, what? Right? But it isn't about that. And I know that. And I hope you know that as well. So the 11th Siddhi is light, uprooting the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Oh my good Lord. Okay. Well, let's dig into this. Oh boy. As you follow the archetypal stream of the 11th gift, your life follows a unique course of self-empowerment that encounters many twists and turns, swells and swoops, and challenges to be confronted and ultimately embraced. There comes a time, however, when the archetypes you are encountering begin to fuse into fewer and fewer images until they become compounded into one single primary archetype. This image or being is the mark of your own nemesis. The primary archetype represents the distillation of all the aspects of your nature, and its appearance is so powerful that it literally brings an end to the process of evolution and growth. For some time, you must sit face to face with the inner daemon, feeling the feelings that it engenders: awe, terror, chaos, and love. Whatever shape the mind tries to give to this creature is devoured by the extremely high frequency of the archetype itself. The primary archetype has been given many names by different cultures and creeds. It is the doppelganger of Freudian psychology, the agnostic guardian of the threshold, or the Christian devil in the wilderness. It is a summation of the collective mythic projections of good and evil. Good Lord. Okay. Confronted by this great inner daemon that separates self, begins to dissolve into the archetype itself. Every projection to urge or identify with anything is gradually purged from your psyche. Once the process is ended, true reality manifests within the human being for the first time. It is though the world has become purified. Behind and through all forms of light shines a clear, pure light. Not a physical light, but an intelligence beyond all identification. One enters the mind and body of the divine. This rare occurrence is the expression of the 11th Siddhi, and it is a hallmark of the Siddhic states. In linear terms, the 11th Siddhi represents the result of what happens when all the archetypal memories stored in the collective unconscious has been filtered and expressed through an individual's life. It is as though you have pierced the veil that separates man from the mythic fall. You once again experience the world through the eyes of a child, as though it were the mythic Garden of Eden. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Wow. So that Siddhic state is essentially, this is what I get, entering into the realm of the divine, experiencing it, being it, expressing it. So what I believe I just read there is when all the archetypes merge into one, right? This is the space of the light that the 11th Siddhi is referring to. And a rare one indeed, because all of the noise is gone, all of the identities, all of the ego is gone, and you are one with the divine. So as I'm sitting here right now recording this, I am definitely in an interesting space and feeling this Siddhic state. I'm not claiming to be operating in this, but I can most definitely, things are weird in the sense of non-ordinary reality is present. So this is the 11th gene key, the shadow, the gift, and the Siddhic state. And it's powerful, very powerful. This gene key identifies the world in which we project and create. That's pretty darn powerful. So I'm going to close this recording up today, and I wish you all the very best day, evening, wherever you are when you're listening to this. And I encourage you to check out the gene keys if you haven't. You can go to my website, which is www.genekeyrecordkeeper.com, to begin the Golden Path journey if you haven't yet done so. And other than that, just have the most beautiful day, and thank you for listening. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of the Gene Keys Exploration. If you would like to purchase the Gene Key Record Keeper, please go to www.genekeyrecordkeeper.com, or you can go to Amazon and search Gene Key Record Keeper, and you can purchase your very own copy of a sacred companion tool as you learn, track, and move through your gene keys. Have the most beautiful day, and we'll look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Bye-bye.